Coffee. We're here to talk about coffee today. DJ, who we work with, had a good title for the podcast today. He said Coffee 101.
Coffee 101.
Coffee 101 would be a good name for the podcast just because this is, and just to get the idea from your thoughts on this episode is, what is coffee, right?
Right.
So I would assume that you know a lot more about coffee than I do. Just because I think you have, if in all honesty, you have a little bit more passion for it, or at least you did for when I started.
Right.
You had a little bit more passion. You listen to different coffee podcasts.
Yep.
You have books.
Yep.
One you brought me today that I just did some light reading on before we started. So coffee, I think a lot of people, and not to any fault of their own, I think just people don't have the affinity for learning about coffee like some other people do. But when you drink coffee, and I read about this a little bit, when you drink coffee, all you want, most people just want the energy. I mean, it's the idea of getting up in the morning, getting the energy from coffee, and then just go about your day.
Oh yeah.
Whereas, and we just kind of discussed last episode, it's way more than that. But I think you're right to get to the root of like the different variations of coffee. We should start where does coffee come from?
Right.
So based off what you know, where does coffee come
from? I love talking about this topic, especially with people that have no idea what coffee actually is.
Yeah.
And I used to think the same thing, like coffee's coffee. I never really thought about where coffee is.
Same.
And like you said, it's just something that's there. It's something that's in your home, something that's been there forever. It's in every gas station. It's in every restaurant, store, whatever. You don't really think, like if you're not really into coffee or not even caring like really what it is other than the caffeine kick, who cares, right? Like you don't really think about it.
Yeah, that's most, again, like this is just what I read, and that's most the public now.
Right, especially in this great country of
America.
So I mean, so I love having this conversation with people because their eyes are kind of like, oh, it's actually like, I guess you could say like, it's so heavy in agriculture for other countries, and it's such like a commodity for people that for us it's just another thing that we have in our home or whatever. So anyways, let me break it down. So my first thing when people ask, so what is coffee? I'm like, oh, well, coffee is a fruit, right? Like, and then most of the time their answer is, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's a cherry.
What do you mean?
It's a cherry, right, to be specific.
Right. Like I thought just coffee grew and they just, picked coffee. I was like, well, coffee is a fruit plant. And what the plant looks like is, it looks a lot like a cherry, and cherry, not really a cherry tree, but more like a bush. And then on this bush, you have a bunch of different big old branches coming out, and the coffee grows in bunches on that branch. So, and that is coffee. So it's pretty much coffee fruit. And where coffee comes from is they take the fruit when it's ripe, or at least they should pick it when it's ripe, because that's when you get the best coffee. They take off the outer skin and the pulp that's surrounding the, we'll just call it seed.
Which is it or is it not?
It is a seed.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, I don't know why it's called coffee beans, because it's not a bean. It's a seed of a fruit. Maybe it's just because it kind of looks like a bean.
Yeah.
That would actually be really interesting to look into, of why it's called coffee beans and not coffee seeds. It could just be a little bit easier to say. So that's coffee in general. That's how it grows. That's what it is. It's a seed of a fruit. And then within that coffee, you have only two types of coffee. You have your Arabica and you have your Robusta coffees.
Arabica, I've heard it pronounced both ways, but essentially that's what it is. And what I just read, Arabica, I kind of knew this before, just based off of like what we offer here, or what we offer for both our respective coffee companies. we offer different or there's different varietals. We'll get to that word later of
Right.
the Arabica bean. And if I'm not mistaken, Robusta is kind of like its own. I heard that's like it's not actually like a scientific term. It's kind of like a market term. Like um, it's not a specific bean. It's just like that's the name brand of the bean in a way. Is that true?
Robusta.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it's actually the variety.
Hmm.
So it's a variety of coffee off of the original plant, which is Arabica, right? So you have 120 or so. There's probably more varieties now, but from when I learned, there is 120 varieties of Arabica, and then one of those varieties is Robusta.
Oh, okay.
And then Robusta is pretty much your most popular coffee. Even though there's one out of 120, it's still
Yeah.
40% of what the world consumes.
Right. And I did read into that. I think it's 129 to be exact, the different amounts of beans that we've known that's known right now. So Arabica is popular in the industry of coffee because it it takes less to make it and you can make more of it. So most places like Folgers and like the big market brand coffee makers or coffee producers, they choose Robusta because of the lower price it is to get them, which is why there's differences or there's very obvious differences in the flavor of the coffee that you get from Arabica and Robusta.
Yeah. And Robusta, it is, like you said, it's a lot easier to grow. So you can grow it at a lot lower elevation. It doesn't need super tropical weather like a lot of the coffees do.
Yeah.
So you can grow it at super low elevation. Doesn't take as much water. Yeah. And then for the taste itself, you don't have to really focus on flavor. You just grow it, you process it, you ship it, and you roast it. You don't even have to roast it very crazy because a lot of the Robusta coffee that's used is a lot of the old school way of roasting coffee. It's just like just burn it. Like I mean, still roast it, develop it, make sure you're getting good like smoky molasses, like dark chocolate flavors, but burn it. Take it the second crack, and that's how it pretty much started before people started getting into the lighter roasts.
Yeah. So going back to Robusta is kind of a good. It's a known topic, and specifically to the book that I'm reading, James Hoffman, the one that you asked me to read, or just let me.
Yeah.
I was like catching up on it because I was really interested, and I thought it'd be a good a good reading material just for this specific episode alone.
Yeah.
And it said Robusta first, I think, known to be discovered in Ethiopia. The first coffee bean was discovered in Ethiopia. I mean, that's the earliest.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
A lot of people go back and forth on where it was originated.
It's unsure, but Robusta is, I think, known as the ancestral start of Arabica. Even though it's a varietal, it's still known to have its origins earlier than the Arabica bean that we know today. So that's why Robusta is so talked about now, even though it doesn't have the same flavor and it is like the cheaper brand of Arabica or the coffee bean itself.
Right.
Arabica or Robusta is, in a way, like the start of coffee beans in general.
Yep. So, coffee 101, that's what coffee is.
Yeah.
You take the coffee, you process it, goes through a whole process. And then we won't really get into it right now, but we will talk about go more in depth of processing.
Yeah.
And then we'll go down the lines of green buying.
Yeah.
For roasters.
Oh yeah.
And we'll talk about exporting, importing, and then we'll talk about maybe different markets where you can find green coffee and all that stuff. So
yeah,
that'll be later on down the road.
Yeah, definitely. So coffee essentially, like Colton was saying, is a fruit. It's a bean. And with that, there's like different varieties, as we mentioned. I was reading through the varieties or varietals, as they say, because there is a differences between a variety and a varietal. there's like way too many. I'd like stopped at like halfway through.
Yeah.
But it's interesting in the way that like these varietals are discovered.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading that there is like natural mutation, and then there's scientifically manufactured mutation, which kind of brings in all the varietals together. And most of it is coffee, by the way, is only found majority of the time within the Tropic of Cancer,
and
Capricorn. Is it Capricorn?
Yes. Yes.
Meaning it just has like, it's like wet and humid, right? And high elevation is where you find coffee.
Yeah.
So most of that is like, I saw at least, is like in Brazil, which was interesting to me, that it kind of started in Ethiopia, but it's what they kind of emphasize is the coffee bean plant is like a global plant.
Right.
So like it's an anomaly in itself, where like you could have coffee in that specific region all over, but there's like differences in the coffee where like you can like identify where it comes from just based off taste and look and the different plant that it comes from.
Right.
But coffee, like in a way, is like, it's a kind of it's a magical bean in that way, where it's just like, it's just global. We drink it all the time. I mean, it's a staple of like the whole world.
It's
like
$1 trillion industry.
Yeah.
Now.
So,
and it started, you got to think, it just started from a plant. It started from one little plant, which is pretty wild to think about.
Yeah. But coffee, it's, when the more you read about it, the more that you find out like, oh yeah, coffee isn't just coffee. It's like way more than this. And like you said, there's different ways to grow it. Soil matters, elevation matters. How you harvest it matters, how you prep it, how you wash it. I mean, there's so many things that we could like go into, but like, it spans many different episodes to really talk about how coffee is essentially brought to us, so we could roast it and like give it to the masses, at least the masses that we know. So
and another thing too, which is, it's fun talking to people about this, because like I usually go like, okay, well, like what coffee do you drink? Like, because after you teach them a little bit, they're like, oh gosh, they're like, okay, well, maybe I've been drinking coffee wrong.
Oh yeah.
Or I just haven't thought about it. I'll be like, well, what type of coffee you drinking? And they're like, oh, I'll go to, and I don't like to reference Starbucks all the time, but I mean, that's the staple. So like, oh, we'll go to Starbucks, and I get a latte, or I get a frappuccino. I'm like, okay, like what else? They're like, oh, I go to the gas station, I'll pick out like a double shot, triple latte or whatever. I'll drink that like coffee, and you're like, all right. And then it's funny too, because they're always like, yeah, but I can't drink it because it gives me like stomach problems. Like I can't handle the acidity, or like, well, because you're drinking horrible coffee. And not only for those drinks is that coffee like really good quality, and it's specialty coffee, but it's the harsh, like it's the Robusta that was grown super fast just to get it out to the world. And it's because like the big corporations obviously own these farms or have contracts with these farms, and they have to hit numbers, right? So they have to grow it however they can.
Fast production.
They have to get it. They have to roast it. They have to get it in their drinks. They have to add sugar to it. They have to add, bad dairy to it. And it's like, well, if they don't, hit those numbers or have the stuff, they're not going to make money. So it's just funny when people say to me like, oh, I can't stomach it. Like I have stomach problems. Like
there's a reason to it.
There's a reason to it.
Yeah. Honesty hour on my behalf. Actually, Lindsay and I, this weekend, we went to Starbucks because we were kind of like on a pinch to get like breakfast. I told myself I wasn't going to order coffee, but Lindsay convinced me like, oh yeah, let's just get what you said, a double shot, an Istopia, what they call it, with some oat milk in it. The minute I tasted it, I was like, this is terrible. And I don't mean to shit on Starbucks all the time, but like you said, they're the staple. I mean, everybody knows Starbucks. It's a name brand now, so
global.
You almost have to compare you almost have to compare like a homemade burger to what McDonald's is. That's what Starbucks has gotten to, and it is what it is. That's what they're advertising themselves as pretty much nowadays, anyways. So when I had it, I was like, this. I didn't really. I used to be a Starbucks drinker, admittedly.
Yeah, me too.
And again, I thought it was good coffee because I didn't know what good coffee was. For sure. To some people, it actually still may be good coffee. But when I tasted it, I was like, whoa, this is like night and day. This is a terrible coffee.
It's terrible.
And nothing saved it. Nothing can save it. Not the amount of syrup you could put in it, not the amount of milk you put in it. It was extremely bad.
And it's almost like when you go back, you're like, this is like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Like it tastes spoiled, or I mean, just like charcoal. You know, like it's got like that charcoaly like mouthfeel to it.
Yeah.
You can't even palate it. Like even when you drink it black, it's like, no, I have to add something to it.
I luckily didn't drink it black because, well, I didn't even drink it that much to begin with because I had one sip and I was like, nah, Lindsay, you take this.
Yeah.
Like if you could handle this, by all means, finish it off. We went home shortly after that, and I made myself a latte at home. Granted, I'm not the best. I didn't win any competitions in latte making, or I'm not the best. I don't even think I have the right grind for the machine that I have, but I made my latte that I make all the time. I was like, whoa, this is way better.
It's great.
Why would anybody go to Starbucks? I mean, I get the convenience of it. It's very convenient. They made it convenient because it's like on every corner. I didn't mean for this Coffee 101 episode to turn into, hey, it's Starbucks.
Oh,
Starbucks is Starbucks, blah, blah, blah. But like I think I have to emphasize, just to whoever listens, Starbucks is not good coffee.
Nope.
And when you learn where they get their coffee from, how coffee's grown, and like the importance of prepping it, you'll understand like, oh yeah, there's better coffee out there. Yeah. Like there's better burgers out there. There's better bread. There's better this and that. I mean, there's like coffee should be indulged in a way where it's good for your palate, not just the convenience of it. Yeah. I think that's what society's trying to get to.
Right.
But Starbucks will always be there, unfortunately.
Yeah. And we can go down this road in the future. But not only that, but once you start learning, like the people that are involved in the process of coffee, and how much poverty farmers are living in, and all that stuff, your mind kind of gets blown. And I mean, just like anything else, once you learn, like where this stuff is coming from, you start caring what's going into your body. You start caring about like the whole process and the farmer, and you're like, oh my goodness, like not only should I not support people that aren't caring for coffee like in such a big level, you should start supporting like small roasteries or people that have a track record of their coffee, because it really does, like a lot of countries are built off the agriculture of coffee. Yeah. So it's like,
yeah, you're right.
Once you learn it, you're like, oh my goodness.
And like, it's a lot of countries. Like
a lot.
We offer, I would say, a good amount of like different origin coffees, and that's only a fraction of what all these farms are, where their farms are from, and like all these countries that produce coffee. There's so much to it. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we have, because we're in the industry, I think we have some kind of due diligence to make people aware of like, there's small business coffee owners, there's small business like coffee farms that you should support if that kind of stuff matters to you. Again, like convenience is convenience. We kind of almost made it convenient in a way to order coffee nowadays through like websites and ordering online and same day shipping and all that stuff. But like, I think we do have a responsibility to let people know, like, so go support your small coffee business owner. Yeah. Go support small coffee farms, or coffee farms that practice good farming habits and good farming practices. Yeah. Because if you do that, you'll get something in return, which is good produced coffee, good tasting coffee, good coffee that's good for you that won't burn your belly or like give you like
got to run to the restroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Right after you
and like
drink it,
to be like to put it PG, like run to the bathroom and just like let loose, like you don't.
If you need a quick clear out,
yeah,
go for it. I ate.
So I think we have I think you should support your small business coffee owners, whoever it is, whether it's like coffee shops, in which hopefully they get their coffee from like coffee farms, like what we're talking about, or like your online coffee shops or
Lost Woods.
I mean, again, not to
Mouse Waves.
Yeah,
I'll put that plug in there.
Yeah,
we
sure.
serve good coffee, man.
Yeah, so yeah, do that. If there's anything to take away from this episode specifically, just go support your small business coffee owner.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And you can usually, it's really popular right now. So you usually can find it anywhere. And like you're saying, if it's not in your town, if you can't go to a shop and buy it, like there's so much good stuff online. I mean, all the roasteries that I know that, like my favorite ones are all online, all online. So you can, and usually they have free shipping and all that stuff. So
yeah,
so it's pretty good.
But anyways, Coffee 101, I know we could go into like a big like web of like what coffee is, like to the masses, but we could get to like the little details of that in later episodes.
Yeah, we will.
But Coffee 101, that's essentially what coffee is, like we said. And I know we kind of went on a tangent there, but I kind of wanted to bring up, I had an epiphany this weekend, just to bring up like what we did this weekend.
Right.
So grind culture, we kind of explained last episode, like what it means to us, like just put in the grind, put in the work. And
right.
But I also thought like, should we encourage hard work? Yes. Should we also encourage like self-care? I think we should.
Heck yeah.
I came and had like a realization this weekend, and I was just like, I was with Lindsay, we're at my brother's house, and it was like the first time in a long time, because I think you and I are also similar in a way, like we care about like our health, what we eat, like our physical activity, and I've been neglecting it. And I looked at myself and I was like, gosh, I look old and tired.
You look good, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, God bless my wife. She says the same thing, but still, like, I look at myself, and it was like the first time, because I don't really look in the mirror and like look at myself like that. But I looked at myself, and I was like, God, you look old and tired, and that can change easily with just getting back to like my healthy habits, and like a healthy way of like having self-care for like your everyday life for yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
So with grind culture, yes, work towards like what you want, because that's what we're about, is working towards our goals, working towards what we want. But also like, don't forget, I guess this is like a PSA just because of like the realization I had this weekend. Don't forget to like self-care too. Like, get out there, exercise, which I'm trying to get back at. I went running this morning. My legs are like killing me jello today. But yeah, like even like do stuff like, I don't know, wash your face or go get a nice haircut or I don't know, anything, just like put in the work to get to your goals, but also don't lose yourself in it. Like take care of yourself too.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah. So I kind of like came up with that like self-thought, and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a good thing to share with like, not only like you, but like with everybody listening, like hustle, but also balance your life well.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because like I think when we were looking up names, we're like, oh, grind culture, like that sounds like something kind of funky. So we like Googled it. We're like, okay, what's grind culture? And there was kind of like something already kind of around that was kind of people canceling it because it was like, oh, that's the new generation of people that like on the grind. You got to make money, you got to hustle, all that stuff. It's like, well, no, that's not what we're about. Yeah, we got to be like providers for our family, and that's where we lie, but we don't have like, forget about everything else. We're gonna
exactly
be on that grind, be on the hustle and make money, and that's it.
Yeah.
But no, I totally agree. Like, let's be providers, but and me and you have talked about it. Like me and you, we both like are in and out of working out, right? We like to be physically fit because not only we like looking good, but we like to feel good. And that's when you're able to present your best self
Yeah.
Because when you feel good, you work hard. And I'm not saying you can do those things without it, but it helps so much.
Yeah.
Helps so much, especially as being dads or husbands.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, do it for your wives too, you know, like, or your husbands,
Yeah.
whatever. But like, come on, you gotta put in your part. Look good for them, you know.
I think so too. They put in the effort. I mean, we should too, and like,
Yeah.
we can't always fall under that, like, I don't care what I look like I don't work hard and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. I mean, to a degree, yeah, like work hard and provide for your family,
Always.
but like
Yeah.
don't forget about yourself. Even like
Yeah.
stuff like this, like having this podcast is kind of like having therapy for one another in a way, because we could talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about it with everybody that's listening.
Yeah.
So I think not only like self-care for like your physical attributes, but like your mental attributes too. And like there's no proponent to like what mental health is or anything. Like out of us, we're pretty simple in that way, but there is something to like having somebody to talk to. Just having a friend, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Having a friend to talk to is like a huge step upward in like your mental well-being and your mental health.
Yeah, we are created to be surrounded by groups of people.
Yeah.
We're not created to be isolated.
Right.
As soon as you isolate yourself from people and almost convince yourself that that's good, it's where the problems start.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I had a big awakening of that like this past few years, and I'll get more into my story as future episodes go on, but like especially this past, I would say even few months, you know, it's like I started feeling that need, you know, because I worked so hard to build this place up and build a good team behind me. I wasn't sleeping as much as I should. I wasn't eating as good. I wasn't working out. And then on top of that, I wasn't motivated outside of work to do those extra things that are really necessary for you. Right. So I felt this past few months like I need people in my life. So like I go to church and I needed to surround myself with the people at church, like so that I could get to know them better. And like I just needed those people. And then outside of church, I need just, you know, friends, old or new, to be surrounded by, and like just to get that outside of work type of like mental clarity and like just life, you know?
Yeah.
Because it really does play a big factor on your mental health.
Yeah.
And this, like you were saying, like this is like the biggest reason why I want to do this is just, you know, to build our relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have fun doing it. And like you're saying, it's just like, it's good for you. It's good to do things like this and to challenge yourself. And you know, and you know me, I love to eat healthy food. I don't always, but I love like healthy food. I like what I consume. It's like I know when it's good for me, it's gonna, you know, be good for my life. And to be honest, like talking about like mental health too, it's like I'm in therapy, you know, not because I really, really, really need it, but why not? You know, it's like that's just another person to talk to. And if I'm struggling, it brings it out. And you know, if I'm struggling with, you know, anger or whatever, it's gonna help me.
Yeah.
You know, so why not? Why not put like those locks on doors that shouldn't be there and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just to better yourself, right? I think, I mean, not to get into like therapy talk, every person should take some form of therapy.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like there's something in everybody's life that they can better themselves for. And usually there's a therapist for it. And the term therapist kind of scares people, but it's just someone to talk to.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be like a paid service either. Like you could find like I said, like you could find somebody like either a family member or a good friend, or like, I know my friend Daniel, every now and then he calls me just for a good chat. Yeah. And that's like therapy in itself, where like I have a group chat with all of my friends and we're texting each other all the time. And that's even some kind of form of therapy, because you get that like notification, you get to be in touch with your friends. And like, especially if you grew up with them, these are the guys and that you could tell anything about. Like they'll support you no matter what. And then family, like family's a big one, because like family is family. And I mean, that's blood. That's your blood. So if you can't go to them, like you got to find somebody to go to. And if it's not family, I mean, hopefully, I hope in my heart that everybody could go to their family and talk about whatever they need to. Or the family that you start. Like Lindsay and I, we're best friends, and her and I could tell each other anything. And I hope that's that's like what the key thing to a relationship is being best friends, at least for marriage. I mean,
oh, for sure.
So yeah, therapy, whether it's a paid service or not a paid service, I think is very important.
Oh yeah.
And
not to get into all that.
Yeah. But that, I just wanted to share like kind of just like what my weekend was and like kind of what came to fruition as far as like what grind culture is as well. Like grind culture is, like I said, get that work in, but also like get that work in for yourself too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to maybe like kind of end with that and just say, you know, it's awesome that we're doing this. For everybody that I posted the pilot episode today, this morning, and
we've already got a lot of like awesome response from friends and family, and that's been really cool. So
I wanted to thank everybody that either subscribed or commented or sent me messages or Colton messages on our first episode. And to me, this is going to be just like a therapeutic thing and a hobby and something, hopefully, like we said last week, something that we could build a community around. And I don't want to keep emphasizing this, but I'm excited about this podcast. And again, just a last thank you for everybody that subscribed or commented or just supported us in general.
Yeah, and it's grind culture, so we got to build a culture, right? We gotta have people surrounding us.
That's right.
So if you do have any questions, put them wherever you can put them, and we'll feel free to answer them in our next episode, maybe.
Yeah.
Do like a little Q&A, maybe. The start or end of each episode.
Definitely.
That'd be cool. So, yeah, Coffee 101. And I guess Life 101.
Life 101, yeah. We do it all here, so.
That's right.
Until next time, everybody.
Yeah.
Peace.